door. Welcome to PR Development Reception. These are the information and of course the bell. Look, Martin's in here. How you doing, Martin?
Bit warm in here.
Yeah. What about this heat wave, huh? Yeah.
36 degrees, I think.
Yeah, that's enormous. Well, this is how the reception looks like from PRD. Actually looks pretty tidy, not too bad.
It has its moments. That should be here, but there's not had a chance to move it yet.
Yeah.
But obviously I should have a nice little display cabinet in there. Eventually, when I get time, I've got so much work to do at the moment, but how it is.
Yeah. Supply chain issues makes it take everything so much long. We had the same issue in the Netherlands.
Although this is the office, it's also the engine building room, being the cleanest and the easiest to work with, so
yeah. And
comfy.
And cool. So now we're entering the workspace. And here we have the famous or infamous, the V-twin, basically. How's V6? V6 twin?
Twin V6 205.
Yeah.
Or 205 twin V6.
Yeah.
Or all sorts of
yeah. If you are not aware of this car, you can look it up on. There are 2 articles, I think, about this car.
Yeah.
1 or 2?
Yeah. What's that?
1 or 2 articles or something?
There's been a fair few articles. In fact, funny one. There's one in the Netherlands. Top Gear Netherlands, it's been on there.
Really?
Yeah, so it's been a few French people put in the magazines. It's been in Talk magazine at the Peugeot Sport Club. It's been to a few shows, fair few track days, which were always shakedowns after changing so many things. The last track day, it was absolutely spot on, and then I blew the engine up in the front, which I thought, oh, that'd be great, I can now drive it to see what it's like with one engine. I built another engine for the back, which was supercharged, about 500 horse, maximum the gearbox could take, and then it got out of hand, big turbos, and then I was going to put the Audi gearbox on there, but it ran out of time.
Yeah.
And, another car came and I thought it was the end of an era really, so we auctioned it off and someone came ahead and bought it. Then he's offered me to completely rebuild it and come up with something slightly different and a little bit more tame, but equally
still
impressive.
Cool.
So yeah, it had 2 V6s in, 2 ESG 94s.
From the 4.6 coupe?
Yeah, it's the early ones, my favourite, the simplest ones to do. Made 700 horse of nitrous, which I had on there. I used nitrous twice. And then obviously the engine popped, not because of nitrous, I think I over-revved it basically on the rolling road. It didn't sound too clever, but I went to Shelsley Hill Climb, Shelsley, whatever you call it, and probably popped the front engine there because I couldn't get it in gear. I had a day to put 2 new lighter flywheels in it and 2 clutches. On my own, I really struggled, and then the day came, I literally finished and put up the trailer, drove so many hours, and then in the pit lane I was adjusting the bias of the clutch on my own, so we did a few runs with the 2 engines and I just could not get into bites properly on the hill. I've never done a hard start with it, so I had to put more clutch bias to the rear, and I think I slipped a gear and the engine at the front over-revved, and ever since then it was making a bit of noise. So then I did a track day at Autumn Park. It went really well until about halfway through the day. The brakes boiled, which was rather interesting. Then the engine really did start to knock, so about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and got a bit bored, sat around, thought, right, let's go and blow this up in style. I refused to die, funny enough. It was literally knocking. Like I've never heard a knock before, but none of the rods came out the block or anything. I mean,
these engines are tough.
Yeah, the crank is forged. The rods are like chocolate, like every bloody car is, I guess. The block is so well built. It refused to let go, but yeah, that was its last track day. So yeah, it got sold on, and now we are in the process of putting it back on the road, mad as it sounds. They've still got all the documents for it after I built this for good, when was that? 2002 I started. and it was finished 2008 after some many years of
Trial and error.
yeah, losing jobs, girlfriends, houses, homelessness, you name it. I managed to keep the car after all that. We refused to die. We got it going. It's been a lot of fun. To sit between two engines is an experience that I believe everyone should have. Took out as many people as I could in it, and to experience it was a great laugh. It was built for about 11 grand. And then at the end, I spent
Surprisingly, actually, it's very.
Yeah,
no, I'm not going to say cheap, but
no, when I started this, it was when I was what 23. I mean, I did all the welding myself, as you can probably see. I actually welded this with a little hobby welder, 180 amp. I've been welding, roller shutter doors for the Bishop Aerospace, so I knew how to do some good welds and good penetration. It took me a fair bit of welding, and obviously it was all labour intensive. So the bars and steel were pretty easy to get hold of. It was just when I come to buy the suspension, the ECU, and all the other grubbings which I struggled with. So basically I turned all the money side of it into labour. Bought the two engines for 700 quid, that was 450 horse. It was only until I spent 2 grand on the nitrous system, which is the biggest chunk of money I spent on it.
yeah,
So, and
2 grand for a nitrous system.
well, yeah, it was a nitrous controller. Each cylinder, which was 12 of, had an injector, basically an injector, a nozzle. Obviously 4 solenoids. It was a fair bit of setup. 2 large bottles, which was 400 quid. So yeah, and then obviously the nitrous to fill the bottle was 120 quid. At the time when I bought it, I didn't ask that question. They were £36 when I first did nitrous one in 2003, and then to fill up a bottle again was 120. So that's why it sort of died on me. I thought, well, I can't use nitrous anymore; it's too expensive. So yeah, so it's a case of cutting out the bulkhead now, putting the Meggy's engine, which is now coming out, and going in the back of this. That's 300 horse, 300 foot-pounds. It's a straight swap. Just need to get a charge cooler for it. The ECU is all included. We're going to make a custom dashboard for it, which is upstairs, glass fibre. It's going to be really quiet inside, dynamatted, all carpeted, all flocked, TV screens, not max power, but enough to enjoy a modern motoring to this day sort of thing, even like a cruise control.
Yeah. Think about it as like a Renault R5 turbo, only it's not a Renault, it's a Peugeot, because the engine's in the rear. Or you know the Clio V6, but it's not a V6?
Yeah, more
kind of like that, yeah.
More. This has got the magical trick, which everyone always wondered what it was. Whenever I lifted the back end up on this, because it's got a very similar T16 style cabin.
Yeah, that's basically what you end up with, obviously, because
Yeah.
the wheels and also, this looks very similar, but I can see obviously that it isn't, but it looks very T16-ish.
So the cabin on the back of this is actually a dimmer, but a European dimmer from Belgium, which is a lot wider. I mean, you can look at the dimmer on this one. It's, to me, it is very straight up and down.
Yeah, it's not as wide as mine.
No, it's got a few curves, but it doesn't look wider.
But I tell you, because it's not as wide, these wheels fit way better. Mine is, mine's
They
got.
don't fit inside the arches. That's why these dimmers in the UK look a lot taller.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, there is about an inch of underhang,
yeah.
and obviously you can't get the tyres that low, so you do have to cut them out a lot more. Not the problem in the back of here because there's no inside arches.
Yeah.
There's no inside. They're going to have to put some in now. It's a road car. But again, funny enough, the Megane engine fits in here like a glove. Even better. Than
Yeah, look how big the space is. You're gonna need stuff.
The engine comes up to here.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a bar from here straight across there. Now it's going to move to here, so we can put the seat right back and tilt it. And obviously have a cabin area in the back. So
Are you gonna put like a perspex window in there
yeah,
a little?
so it's all going to be sealed off, so it's safe. You can see that I've already welded in these side bits. I mean, it looks a bit rough, I've not ground it out yet. And then obviously there's going to be a perspex triangle piece here, so we can see our blind spot, similar to what I need to do with Meggy. And then obviously the one in the centre as well, so we can see behind us without having to have electric rear view mirror or a camera, so to speak. It's not a good idea. So there's plenty of things we can do with this. I've not come up with a final design yet. We are still using the 406 subframe because obviously I don't need to chop it down because the gearbox is going to catch, so that fits in lovely. Obviously the 406 wishbones, which are much wider and fit these arches perfectly. Then we're going to have to then convert the drive shafts, the Megane drive shafts over to 406. Or unless we use the hubs on that one over there like I was talking to before. So there's lots of work. The new carpets go in it, new seats go in it, and yeah, probably a LCD digital dash and a stereo. So yeah, it should be a bit different from where it is now. So.
This thing will be a tasty car. Obviously, I will be around. Hopefully, there will be, I don't know, we'll be working on this or not working, or I don't know, we'll see what's up. But keep you posted on this. This thing is very interesting.
Yeah, I think I'm going to get you working on that tomorrow.
Yes.
If we can get that boxed off and get the engine out, that engine ring can come in here.
Yeah.
And that's the next stage of this one. Because I want the engine in before I put the bulkhead in. And it's, unfortunately, with this project, you've got to have all the parts in place so you can view clearances. I don't like just building on the whim because then you have to problem after problem after problem to overlook. It's best to just do it on the go.
Yeah.
We had a massive setback with this. So we actually planned to get the original 205 T16 bonnet off the actual race rally car, so we can put the charge cooler in it. Okay, that's how it's going to work. Very similar to the Meggy, but back to front. And after, God knows, 11 months, we were basically hit with, we can't supply you with those parts. So we're going to have to do it our way, which is I have to make a bonnet myself. So. Not that I'm shy of doing it, but we always
should have been so much easier, yeah.
So it's just one of those. It's just, yeah. You plan something, you have a time scale, you double it,
and it's still not enough, yeah.
You have a budget, and you double it. That's where you'll be. After 45 conversions I've done, that's pretty much a foolproof way of looking at a car. I mean, everyone goes, "Oh, it's dead easy," but
it isn't.
Always take on more. You always find something you weren't aware of. I mean, I've got all these holes in the bulkhead to fill in. There's a lot of tidying up to do. I've got to take this off yet, come up with a new strut base. I've got to take all the old gearbox mount off. I've got to tidy all this up here. I mean, this has all been sandblasted. It was all lush when it was stripped. Amazingly, it's better than the Meggy, so to speak. I actually painted it 2-pack, and then obviously that's been sandblasted. I've been cutting it all out and then priming it back up again. So all this has got to be all tidied up and respectable looking. So this goes to show how many pipe works I had and things bolted to the bulkhead with twin engines. And obviously you see where the cables came from.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's been welded up again. That's all got to be ground flat and flush. You won't see that when I'm finished. Again, it's similar to these holes here and here. So what went in here, if I can just remember, is the clutch system.
Oh yeah.
And obviously I had to cut a big gaping hole there just to get that to work because it wasn't very straightforward. Because if anything on this car, the hardest thing I did on this was the clutches. Couldn't put it inside, couldn't put it on the outside, had to go inside, had to have 2-inch, 1-inch master cylinders to drive both clutches, which were Land Rover slaves. Again, that was a nightmare. It took me a good 3 or 4 weeks to come up with all that. Welding it all in, making sure it was strong enough. The first time I put it in, when I depressed the pedal, it deformed all the bulkhead and all this. So
yeah, it's very thin metal.
Yeah, it's all French.
Yeah.
So I had to put all sorts of gussets in there and bars and triangulation and everything, and yeah, it was a nightmare, so to speak. But we got
overcome.
Yeah, it was good 12 years ago now. Only did like 1 track day a year in it because of funds and work and all that, but I fully enjoyed it. It was a great experience and something to learn from. So No doubt, the next 6 months we should see this moving forward. New windscreening and stuff, different doors, new front arches, new bumper, headlights as well. And I think
Oh yeah, this thing never had any headlights.
No, it had blank. So the big turning point for me would be
Getting
when I
that.
see this car with blinking in it. It's funny, it's weird. I don't know if it's just me, but whenever I see a project, when you know your indicators are flashing, you've got the wiring all done. Like, it's just that bit
A
there.
massive feeling because
Yeah,
the
it's
wiring's
that-
always such a big
Yeah,
job.
well, I don't believe the wiring to like, but when you see a car indicating, it's just almost like, you know, it's a car. It's got
Yeah.
a beating heart, so to speak.
How are you going to solve the issue with this over here? Because
So
always
all this triangulation was to give me more space in the front. I mean, it's ugly. It wasn't at the time, but it was just basically cut as much out as I can. Because obviously the front of V6 in the front, it fouled on everything. And
Yeah.
if you were to cut out round stuff, it looked even worse. So I just cut all the front end off. I just basically put bars in, like 4, 6, something. You see these with your bonnet, the pins. Look if you want it solid. So this was the top bit, what holds the top of the radiator in. There was a bar going at the bottom here that held the radiator on. I mean, it's all triangulation. Again, more triangulation, hold the bottom of the wings in, solid. And obviously the top of the wings, it was just purely
functional, yeah. But now you got to turn back the lights need to be back here. Are you going to put like an original front back on, or are you just
Well,
going to make like keep the tube
yeah,
frame?
I mean, this is a discussion I've had with the customer, and I don't know what I think he wants the original one back on, but the original one is half the strength as this.
Yeah.
Again, if you see these here, these were for your indicators. There is bars that used to stick down here, which you can still feel the welds broken. They held all the headlights in originally. I mean, it was going to be a road car, but 2006, 2007, when one of my parents were very ill, I decided, let's just get this on the track. We're going around in circles. I don't want to be building a car for 20 years. The original lights were taken out. I put blanks in to lighten it all up. Took the wiring out I didn't need, and then I put it on the track, and that's where we were. So, but yeah, you'd be surprised. It's a damn sight stronger than the original panel.
Yeah, it looks a lot. I know how the original panel, how fucking weak everything is.
And they won't
You get a dent in it if you lean against it.
I mean, the front panels now, I'll say this, you'll get a cut off another car which is 30 years old and it'll rot. You buy the replacement panels you get off eBay or these companies claiming about the good quality, and they're absolutely bloody shocking. They never line up. They are spot welded. I don't know how they do it. They mustn't use a jig, and if they are doing it, then they're not very good, because I've had to cut them off and weld them back on in a different position, and I've done about 3 or 4 of them now. Unfortunately, the proper panels are not available, and most of the time I make my own panels up, so I probably make my own panels up and then put the originals back on. So
Yeah.
we'll soon see. It's all down to the budget and how much time to be spent on it. Again, it's all down to the customer. I mean, I want to build something that's, I'll say, on a budget. Don't like going over budget. Has to remind the customer pretty much every other time, budget. But again, you don't want something that's bodged. It has to be done right. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, safety is everything, absolutely paramount. So as long as that's a day or two, then we're all right. So.
So yeah, this car has a bit of a story, and it's going to be even a bigger story, because as you can see, it's getting a new life, which I think is pretty damn awesome. And yeah,
I've had this car since 1998, and it was a friend. He sold it me for 900 quid. It was a Red 205, phase 2, all interior, had an MI16 in there. I put the carbs, nitrous on it, and all the coilovers, 309 suspension, ripped it all out and put 2 buckets in, and the steering wheel, it was absolutely lethal, with lots of track dates in it, and then trying to keep up with all the boys with all the money, the throttle bodies and cams and all that. I just put nitrous on it, and I did that for a short term. Didn't blow anything up.
Luckily.
But, yeah, it was a case of I wish I had some money to, do something like what these guys are doing. So I thought, well, let's use my head a little bit differently, use my skills I have, and turn it into a labour-intensive thing, which it ended up being, and use the money best I can. So that's where it ended out. It started off as a rear engine V6, and then I was offered another engine for the same price, and I thought, hey, why not? So
Twice the power, twice the engine, twice the fun, and twice triple, quadruple the labor.
and fuel, you got to think of the guide as well. So.
Exactly, yeah. Well, yeah, it's good to know that this car will be, I don't know, maybe in a year, hopefully, we'll be back on the road, which I think is a very cool thing. It's just going full circle. It went from the roller car to a track car, to a track car, to a track car, and now back to the road, which I think is very cool. And yeah. And on that note, it's time to end this video. Martin, thank you for your time.
No problem.
And now we have to go to Pugfest because
Cold drink now.
yeah, and a cold drink. So
Melting.
melting. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, want for more, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Later on.
Call it whatever you like. I've had many things called me over this.
Yeah.
This has gone on for a long time.